So, yeah, so we're back with HOOA podcast 26 with my good and dear friend, Limitless Reader. The reason why I actually brought him on is not because he is prolific on Twitter, but it's because in the DMs, which where everything happens with Twitter, if you didn't know by now, is that of all the people that I, so to say, spar with, he has a very differential frame, very confident but calm, always listening, always inquisitive, and you can facilitate good conversation from that. Not to say that the other guys can't talk for shit, but this guy, he knows how to keep a convo, and that's why I invited him on. So without further ado, Limitless, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ua. Thank you, Fury, for the really nice presentation. I'm really happy to be here today and just share some thoughts and get the conversation rolling.
Yeah, man.
And
So pre-recording, we were talking about one big thing. Let's just roll right into it. Like we were talking about
yeah,
like following. You know, why does that
yeah,
fascinate you so much? Actually, is it has to do with just growing the brand? You know, quote unquote brand, social platforms, or is there something like personable, intimate, like in terms of your motivation behind it? I have my own peace of mind on that, but I'm curious how that works for you.
that's a great question. Well, I've been fascinated with the psychology of people
Yeah.
for the longest time. Like from a very young age, I would love looking at what makes people tick and what moves them to do certain things. And this also this is something that I love observing how some brands have this kind of X factor, to say the least,
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
really attracts people into their world and causes them to kind of fall in love with the brand, fall in love with the person, and
Yeah.
attribute like godlike features sometimes to that person. So that's something that fascinates me, and I can also connect that a bit to my past in the military. I
Mhm.
was a
Sure.
commander over soldiers, and I've always tried to find the the factor that makes some commanders become like very charismatic and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
move their soldiers, and
Yeah.
cause them to
Yeah.
walk after them no matter
Yeah.
what. And those that kind of like wane off and can't manage to move the people, to inspire them. That's
Yeah.
something motive that I've noticed.
That's really cool. I like that as well. I wouldn't call myself a leader still to this day, but I feel my biggest trait would be lead by example. And
Yeah.
but because I wasn't per se a natural, I think somebody else, a girl mentioned that the other day, she heard it in another podcast. I look towards leader just like you. Like, how did Napoleon do it, right?
Yeah.
Alexander, and specifically Jocko's podcast. You must love that, how he dissects commanders like that as well. And I think he mentioned, like, for example, what is his name? Like General Espatern. He was not a 4-star general, they say, but he was like a 16-star general because he had that weird like cockiness and swagger that he had 4 stars on this side, 4 stars here, and 4-star on his helmet, and then on another thing. So he basically had 60 stars with his huge swagger. And some people, then you take a liking to them and you listen to their command, basically.
Yeah, exactly. That's something that really fascinates. And the more I study it, the more I see it's like there's like some kind of spark, some
Mhm.
kind of like I'd say like a quote unquote magical element that
Mhm.
really hard to decipher exactly, but
Mhm.
there are kind of like some also threads between those people. So
Yeah.
there are some common factors that repeat themselves
Yeah.
in those brands or people
Mhm.
that are kind of magnetic.
Yeah. And in your research, so to say, quote unquote research, what kind of
Yeah,
like unwoven threads have you identified then? I have my own thoughts, but I'm curious what
yeah,
you got.
of course. Yeah, so I've noticed that most of them like have a really clear statement of like their mission, their
Mhm.
creed. Like they have a really very really clear understanding of what message they are trying to convey. And is that cool if like we shoot a few brands, or you prefer to keep that out of the conversation?
No, you can talk about anything you want, bro. Feel
Yeah,
free.
so
Yeah,
for example, like a brand that I think is doing that excellently is Ego, our mutual
yeah,
friend.
sure.
So he has like his very strong message, like ego is not the enemy, and that is something that pulls up a lot of people after that message. That's
Yeah.
like one thing that repeats across
And what I
many of
can
his books.
actually disclose is because he has disclosed himself, because he has a
Yeah.
certain troubled past that he has
Mhm.
come clean on the timelines. There's nothing new there if you know him.
Yeah, of course.
And but because of that, it's tied to his message. In that sense, we
Exactly.
create something like authenticity. So he
Yeah.
only speaks basically on and on. Maybe it's repetitive for some people, but it's still potent in terms of authenticity. It's very aligned with this creed and message that he's bringing. So there's no discrepancy between that's well spotted, man. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
That kind of goes like to the other thing I spotted is like they have most of these people or brands have like a very defined story, life story, whether they kind of worked it in their
yeah,
mind, but they just kind of built their identity in a very coherent way, like where they've come from,
yeah.
what the transformations they made. It's very like a story.
Yeah, like a story. I resonate with
Yeah.
that because I've been on this platform now almost like a decade or some shit. And if you, as well, there's some old tweets. I deleted a couple of them because they're not representative of me anymore. Not that it's too
Mhm.
transparent or filtered,
Yeah.
but the story has been furthered into a further chapter. You know, imagine a book. You are allowed to leave back, but we are now in a different chapter of my quote unquote story. And I feel there are too many young guys, let's say, I would say they're 15, 17 or some shit. You can't
Yeah.
believe that you're gonna build a quote unquote a brand like somebody as iconoclastic as Ego because of the life that he lived, you know, and his compatriot Atlas, you know, for example, he's a very
Yeah.
proficient leader. How he
Mhm.
speaks in the DMs, the work, everything he does is magic, basically. But that
Exactly.
guy has a subtext off screen, basically in the real world, that you then can perhaps repackage a little bit, or
Mhm.
um, you can embellish certain part of your life story and make it a cool story that you want to profilate and make a cool meme out of, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. It's like has to be based on like a substance,
Yeah,
like a life well lived, and just like yeah, I've built like a story in my head, and then I try to sell that. It doesn't work that way because the people feel that energy. I think
yeah.
that's what I sense at least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, a good example is Lobo, Lobo Salvaje as a Twitter
Mhm.
handle.
Yeah.
He never scheduled a tweet because I've been following him long, and he just tweets from his iPhone. And he fostered an
Yeah.
account of like 30K plus. And he even said he grew too much and it's too popular and mainstream now. He just put it on private.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just because of his life lived behind it, what you just said, like Limitless, with the substance behind it, you know? And
Hmm.
even let's say, to be honest, it's not that I believe in karma, but there's some things that will stain your soul. That let's say you were to be able to hack Twitter or any other social media platform, just make people believe in something and just, you know, I don't know, just grow your account through the hacks, you know, like engagement groups. Well, there are lots of tricks. Fuck it. Anyway, but point of it is that at one point you're big, but you will know. And if you know, you will know that you're like a fraud. But if you don't care about that, then what do you care about in life, right? That ties back to that kind
So
of creed thing. Like I never
yeah.
tweet about, I don't tweet about, like, for example, very transparent, picking up women 24/7, because that's
Hmm.
one, not my interest. I am, you know, I like women and stuff like that, but I'm not really busy with that. So you won't see me tweeting the whole time about that, you know? And
Yeah.
people can smell that shit like far away. And if they can't, you're just bullshitting yourself. Like, you know, what are you doing, right? You know?
Hmm. I agree. That's kind of like it does tie to your main message, so no, not relevant. No need to kind of dig into it. So, but people feel like if they see a person that that shares authentic stuff and they see through it, then it can be felt. It's hard to explain because it's energy, but that can be definitely felt.
Yeah,
Um,
you know, I think to not to intervene here, but It's
Yeah.
something that I like. Yeah, smelt is a strong word, but like subtext behind your vocal presence. I think I heard you on the space, or oh no, actually, to be honest, because I've been on like a digital platform so long, I can see it through text actually. So we've been texting,
Mm.
DMing, and I
Hmm.
read that, but I feel a certain, I wouldn't say per se charismatic, but a benevolent person, because on the timeline you have some evil people actually. You just DM with them and you smell not a rat that's strong, but they want something very
Oh yeah.
very pragmatic, to put it in a
Yeah, yeah,
euphemistic
yeah.
way, very pragmatic. And I have nothing against that. We're all here to build business or make money, whatever. But when I was talking with you, I felt somebody who was, like I said, very curious, and yeah, benevolent is the proper word. And then the other day I heard you in a space, and was maybe one of the first time I heard your voice more, and I thought, well, it fits, it fits
Mhm.
the cadence of your delivery of your voice, the words you choose, your interest, and everything is quote unquote then on brand. You chose your, so to say,
Yeah.
limitless quite well, and then people can smell that, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I really, I'm glad that that's Phil, because I'm really trying to just be myself, and I'm not trying to
Mhm.
build something that's not me, and because I believe that you won't be able to sustain something like that
Yeah,
eventually. Eventually, the card house will collapse because
yeah, yeah, I
you're
feel that.
building on a
I feel that
yeah
definitely. Yeah, because
a
I,
bad foundation.
yeah, that validation. Yeah, can you speak a little bit
Hmm.
more about that?
Yeah, I mean, um, I think that when people seek that validation from others, like maybe may it be like engagement
Hmm.
or I don't know, fake achievements or stuff like that, they are damaging their own, like just ties back to what you said, they are damaging their own soul because they are they're lying to themselves, and
Yeah,
it's so hard to build from a place where you can't trust yourself and
yeah,
your word is not worth anything. So the first person you're lying to is to yourself, and
yeah,
you'll never when you get to the top, you'll always feel like the sense of, did I really achieve that, or did I lie to myself? And with that, that's something I don't think anyone can live with that feeling, no matter whatever they say. So I think that's something I'm really against,
yeah.
and I
It's
see
good.
that a lot.
Yeah, it's
But
it's it's good to talk about these things because after the last show that I was on, I've been like writing a lot, like longer
mhm,
pieces and stuff like that, and it makes me think about these things. The things you just mentioned, like a creed, um, truthfulness towards yourself mostly, and from that towards others, and basically
yeah,
creating, yeah, I don't know, like a wall and a frame for yourself, and from there you can create your art or your word or your message,
yeah,
right? And
definitely.
it's, I don't know, where does the mistake then lie in this world, because I feel that, strangely enough, not against like something complimentary towards you, but that you are an outlier, and I feel I'm facilitating this convo,
Mhm.
not virtue signal, but why are we then outliers? I feel, is there something wrong with the world? We don't have to go hardcore in politics, but can you pinpoint a couple things that you feel could be a little bit better in this world then?
In our world, yeah. Well, where do I start? Just no, I think there's a lot of great things. I mean,
Yeah.
since I've joined Twitter, like my whole world expanded so much because I bet you felt that yourself. You've been here for a long time,
Yeah.
and I mean, I've met more people online than I think I've met my whole life,
Yeah.
around the world. Because yeah, you meet so many people, so many interesting stories, and I think that's the positive side of, for example, of social media.
Yeah.
And but the percent of people like us who really use social media as a tool to
Mhm.
develop themselves,
Yep.
to grow, to improve, to generate maybe an income, or
Hmm.
even create connections.
Yeah.
So tiny. It's like 1% maybe,
Okay. Yeah.
or 5%. I don't know exactly the numbers,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think that's something that there's lots of ignorance around this. around the media, the social media, and I see it around my environment with
Yeah.
friends, with family, kind of like get feeded from the
Yeah.
authorities,
Yeah.
kind of brainwashed. So
Yes. Yes.
that's
Hmm.
that's something that I think would be great if it would improve.
And then I have two follow-up questions towards that actually. So the
Mhm.
first part of the question is, how long have you been on Twitter then, give or take, like from a creative point of
From
view?
a creative point
Yeah.
of view, I've started like last October
Yeah.
2021. So
So yeah, you've been steadily almost busy like then a full year, so to say, right? And then through the message that you're curating and embodying, do you feel then, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth or in your life, but do you feel then maybe this indiscrepancy or dissonance with the people around you in your environment, that you want to bring a certain message forward that you do not actually see in your physical close concentric circles around you?
mm,
Or how do I see this?
yeah, I think that's I think it kind of originated very early in my life.
Mhm.
I never like had the words for it for the longest time. You know that feeling where you have that big feeling that you have to go after something,
Yeah,
but you don't know how to identify exactly what that thing is.
yeah,
But as time went by, the big message that I feel resonates with me a lot is just to like become a master at your craft, like find your calling, your road, and just pave it and
yeah,
push through that. So kind of like achieve mastery, achieve become your best version,
yeah,
and that's something that I've lacked. I don't see like a lot of people around me pursuing it and
yeah.
kind of like falling into the comfort of modern life, of
Mm-hmm.
their daily lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I view myself as a bit different in that term, and I try to pull anyone I can with me on that mission.
Okay. And but then maybe a very personal question then, but the
Yeah.
inverse of that, are there people that are trying to pull you out of that and pull them into their comfort? Yeah. Or
Well, I think most of them tried for
Mhm.
some time, but
Yeah.
at one point, I think they just kind of gave up because
Yeah.
when you have, it's hard because very easy to fall back to old habits, old
Yes.
friends, just go back and
Yeah.
stay apart, like a crab mentality,
Yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing.
The crabs in the bucket.
Yeah, exactly.
What's really funny, I had to
And
explain that metaphor to a friend of mine, or not per se explain, but I said, you know why they call that, right? And he said, he was a little bit confused. I said, just look, just put a couple crabs in the bucket, and look at what they do.
yeah,
It's so devious actually, because I would say following Pareto law, it's more than 80% of the people do it,
yeah,
especially tying back that you want to at least gun for to be a master, because mastery
yeah.
is a process, you're aiming for that process. The rest of the
Mhm.
20% is either not doing that, and then let's say a small percentage would be evil enough, to drag other people's down in the bucket. They do that. They're disgusting as
Yeah,
hell, to put it mildly.
definitely. Yeah, I think that stems from like two main reasons. I think like some of them have like the some of them fear like you're gonna leave them alone,
Yeah,
leave
yeah,
them
yeah.
back, and they're gonna stay
Yes.
back. And some of them really have the malicious intent,
Yeah.
the bad reasons for that. They don't want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
But I think those who are afraid, who like more about preserving you and keeping you from harm,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
those are
yeah.
the people I respect kind of
Yeah.
because they show their love that way. But
Yeah.
those who have like the bad intentions, I just let go because
Yeah.
I don't need that energy.
Yeah, but that's interesting. You have, I would say, like good psychological slash human insight, because I really resonate with what you just said now, that it's actually a deep, quote unquote, deep rooted. Sometimes they're actually aware of it, to be honest. But let's say they're unaware of it, like on a subconscious level. It's fear of abandonment, and also
Mm,
what you
yeah,
just mentioned, I think, self-preservation. And then they
definitely.
they hold people back either you, or let's say you and I were to be friends, they are going to try to hold you back from going further with me. Let's say, I say, yo, Limitless, I have this big project. And then somebody hears that, some intimate people, they're like, ooh, let's stop Fury from bringing Limitless further if they were to hear about that,
Oh, definitely, definitely. And that's funny because those people, they don't understand that there's so much in the world. Like they have like the scarcity mindset.
Yeah,
and
you need the abundance mindset, basically.
definitely.
It's actually, it's very illogical. I know that most people are not rational. Me neither. I fuck up all the time. But if you were to think from the most emotional point of view, I always say, to drop your ego that much because you actually have such a full ego, or you have so much emotion. Let's say I really love winning. I have to care about winning so much that I have to get rid of the care of winning, actually, that I need to start losing, and then I'll win, and that's from a very logical point of view to fulfill my emotions. And similar that with that scarcity and abundance mindset, because as soon as I start to think in a high vibe way, I actually get to satisfy or fulfill those cravings from a very limbic point of view.
I love that. I just love what you said because it's so true. Whenever you're like obsessed with something, like obsessed with winning or obsessed with anything, and you let that consume you, you're 99% gonna lose because you're obsessed with something that's not in your control. And when you let go, things start to go your way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those classic Taoist Buddhist things that it's one of those truisms that you just feel, in life.
When you try too hard, it's not gonna work.
There's that book is a little bit too far away. There's this book by Anthony DeMello, Rediscovering Life, in which he dictates a classic Buddhist parable that goes like, when the archer shoots for nothing, he always hits his target. When he shoots for silver, he starts to think about missing. When he shoots for gold, he misses everything. And the build-up in that story, and it has multiple variations of that story, but the crux of that story is to be felt with everybody, even the top level, let's say NBA players who bring in Zen coaches and shit like that to let go, not just of ego, but more so they choose to play more in present moment awareness and play through flow and such altered states.
That's so interesting. I mean, so he describes like how to get into that mindset in that book.
He basically he uses parables to, just to dictate how to let go. Actually, he just starts from the beginning, just let go. But if I say to you, or you to me, or any listener is listening now, and I say let go, they would not understand it. For the next, like, let's say 40 minutes, we just have to say let go, let go. But in terms of storytelling and through memetics, they get the point a little bit. So actually Anthony DeMello, he has a better book about that. It's a recording actually of classes he gave, because he was like a Judas priest, a very specific type of priest, actually, that he was so well studied that he was, he almost had a master degree in theology, and he put everything together a little bit. And I don't have his full, let's say his, all his titles, he has a lot of them. But in that, so to say, masterclass, I have that thing on Audible, I think. I recommend it because that guy has a very charming voice and it makes you want to listen to him, And it's called Awareness by Anthony DeMello. But there, through parables, he just basically wants to make you do the same thing, which is let go. And it's hard for a person to force another person to let go, right? And just to come back a little bit to that point, that if you want that parable that you said, or that aphorism, if you want something too much, it's never going to happen. I have this thing with this old girl that I used to know. The girl that pre-recording, I talked to you about her, that she was talking. If you're listening to this, if you're stalking me, feel glad that you're still stalking. But the point of it is that I think, in a sense, both she and I wanted XYZ, let's say a projection or an expectation of a certain relationship or a certain love. We wanted it both too much, and reality is different then. And once you want something too much, you force it, and thus create friction, because everything in life should actually be a little bit frictionless at one point, and that's when flow state actually comes.
Yeah, flow. Yeah, you just read my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. And but in that sense, like, what are like your main treaties on flow? Do you have any like specific people that you've researched, or any resources, or how do I see this?
That's really interesting because I've kind of like I've never really dug into that concept formally, like through a book or something like that. I just read a little bit about it through the term, but I've gone like to my own insights on it. So
Okay,
I have like my kind of like my personal insights on flow,
sure,
and
go ahead. Yeah.
it's just like it it's very hard to describe what flow feels like to someone who doesn't uh, who hasn't felt that vibration or like a feeling. But the easiest way is to think about situations. For example, let's say you're with a group of friends or with your family and you're going to a restaurant, and the whole group like wants to go to one restaurant and you want to go to another restaurant. Then to be in flow is just roll with the group. And
Yes.
of course there's um, situations where you want to impose your own will on that. But if you want to be in complete flow, you go with the group, you go and sit in that restaurant, and then the waitress comes and you want to order this dish, but she tells you, you know what, you should order this dish because I think it's gonna be better. So you take that dish,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then you kind of have like dinner with your family, and then they want to stay a bit longer, and you just flow, and
yes,
then really interesting things start to happen.
yeah.
You feel much better, and
That's a good
life, yeah.
it's a good anecdote, Limitless. Because I've traveled extensively compared to the average listener.
Yep.
There are people who've traveled more than me, rookie numbers, but I feel that what you just described is the what I have adopted as to call them the traveling people, because these normal people are not around where I live. You know what I mean? And it's actually super ironic, because if you think about it, like where I live now, if you come here, you would be considered a traveler. And
Yeah.
if I go to where you live right now, I am then there, the traveler, right? Because somebody's
Mhm.
traveling to a spot. But what is then the difference to have the traveling mindset? It's just a mindset, actually, if you think about it. So
Yeah.
I would say to have the intention or this vibration or this inductment to induce oneself in this situation, there you get the chemicals to go with the flow, because most people
Exactly.
are too rigid, to put it like that. And then
Yeah.
only if they are rolling with their hostile squad, and that's why I've adopted them as the traveling people, then they are fun as hell. You know what I mean? Let's go to that bar,
Mhm.
let's go eat at a restaurant, and these people are hella fun. But when the vacation's over, you can't really work with them because they're only in what I not per se party mode, but only in flow mode. So that would be
Yeah.
going even further. But I definitely know what you mean in terms of just just look at like a stream of water in a river. If it has
Exactly.
a piece of rock in the middle of the river, it just goes around it, right? And that
Mhm.
ties perfectly to that example you gave that the person says, why don't you take this dish? And then you think, okay, whatever,
Yeah.
it's like you're that
Exactly.
river in that moment. You're the water, be like water.
Exactly. And it's like it also ties to other stuff. Like, for example, let's say I need to ask you a question because I need your advice, specifically yours, your viewers' advice,
Mhm.
and you accept my request because
Sure.
you are currently in flow because I've come um, to your place for advice because I feel like there's there's a reason that you're going to solve that for me.
Yeah.
And if someone like comes to you for advice, reach your hand out and it's probably for a good reason that they came for you, and
Yeah.
there's like a sign in there. It's kind of like a bit esoteric maybe,
Yes.
but I think that there's many things that happen to us and that we ignore them on a daily basis, like signs or kind of like things that just happen, and
Yeah.
we brush them away or ignore them, and that kind of um, causes us to lose our flow, and just
Yes.
because we stick to one target that we think
Yes.
we need to go, and we don't
Um,
let go of it. Yeah.
People should follow their gut more, you know.
Yeah,
If they
definitely.
would have seen my last travel, what I had done, how it was almost like placing bets on the roulette, how weird it was. And it's not for everybody because then it's pure chaos. But it was a
Yeah.
very, how would I describe it like politely, like a very boxed in kind of chaos, you know, like a river
Mhm.
has two embankments. Without the embankments, the river turns into, well, an ocean, you know, then you're unstoppable. But because of that, actually, I met some nice Twitter mutuals and have some new stories. You know, I'm lesser for
Mhm.
in terms of financial, you know, because travel is costly. But you get something out of life, how life, in my honest opinion, was designed to be by either if you're a monotheistic person, you know, or maybe there are other people who have another religion, but by the cosmos, by God, or, you know, and it
Yeah,
was to be enjoyed like that, to take these random stuff that are actually ordained, in my honest opinion, by something else. And if you just take one of those domino stones and just keep going, you follow that a little bit down the rabbit hole, you will find very surprising things there that after the fact it's not so surprising, but in the moment it is. And well, that's life, you know.
definitely. I totally feel what you're saying, and I really resonate with that. Um, kind of causes me to think
Mm-hmm.
about how throughout your life, from the moment you were born, you're kind of trying to be distracted by the system or whatever you want to call it from living in that flow, because you have like very predetermined stations you have to walk through. You go
Yeah.
to school, and then you have
Yeah.
to go to university, and then whatever, and then get a wife and buy a
Yes.
house, get a mortgage,
Yes.
da and so that also interferes with the flow, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of people in our environment, in our Twitter sphere,
Mm-hmm.
and like content creators, especially creative people, they are very in tune with their with the flow, with the current of life, because they like gain insights from just being in the moment. And
Yeah.
if you're gonna force everything around you to be in a certain box, then
Yeah.
you limit your creative output as well. That's
Yeah.
something that I also noticed.
Yeah. And to take it a little bit more, and to call it norming, but I when, you know, let's take an example of watching movies or something like Netflix. I grew up in
Yeah,
an era before Netflix. I just acquired television shows, to put it nicely.
yeah.
And, but I never wanted anything to be boring. Or let's take books, right?
Mm,
I do know that you talk a lot about books on your theme page. And I don't want anything ever to be boring. Not that it should have a plot twist every 5 seconds, but it should never be boring. And I
mm,
still to this day can't for the life of me understand how people would want their life to be impeded on them with these imposed milestones. They're not milestones if they're imposed on you, what you just said, right? The
exactly.
wife, the mortgage and whatever. Let's say you don't even want a wife. Let's say you just want one girlfriend. Let's say you're a more player type, you want multiple girlfriends. You just, you know, you can be transparent about these things. Or you always want to be single, you know, I don't know. And point of it is that these imposed landmarks, these benchmarks are, well, authoritative and government based, and you know it comes from somewhere, you know, let's not go too deep in that, but my point
Yeah, definitely.
is that everything becomes boring then, you know. And for
Hmm.
me, it's not only to create creative content that's raw, authentic, and oh, Fury always try to be on brand. It's literally, maybe you could see that, you know, one day I was writing a thread about, you know, being more socially talented, blah, blah. And then one day I just wrote a thread about Doctor Strange, you know, or something.
Yeah, I
And
know. Yep.
it's not that I want to read your mind what you were thinking about it, but you must have thought, well, Fury was a little bit bored of this shit. which I was very transparent, you know. I thought, fuck this shit. I just watched Doctor Strange too. But then my mind can turn off again. And then I go in, you know, to close the loop, or that adjacent theme that I was in the flow state with Doctor Strange. I thought, hey, this is some interesting stuff. I wrote just in my journal, hey, Doctor Strange does this and this. And then, oh, this makes a good thread by accident, you know. I was just writing some notes for myself. And my point of it is that you go, a person goes into flow state if you have this disdain for boring shit. Like, to be honest, I can be bored, you know. I am a lot of times bored to get new insights, or rest the front part of my brain, you know. I just sit then and no music, nothing. I'm extremely boring then, but then the next obstacle comes again, you know.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel that very strongly, and I think you're someone that really embodies like the flow state very well, because you can feel it in your content, in your ideas, in your wide range of interests. Like, you're very well read and well articulated. I think that anyone can have a great conversation with you regardless of the topic. So I think that's what makes life interesting, when
Yeah.
you're able to connect to many different personalities, and you're not just one dimension. And I just love that. I love that. I love that you share that insight.
Yeah, to bring it down like a couple, you know, maybe we went a little bit too fast for some listeners, but let's say
Yeah.
this multi-dimensional faceting of a person, you know. Let's
Hmm.
say a person only has one facet, you know, not everybody has multiple facets, but
Of
they
course.
are learning and they're growing. What kind of advice would you give that in your thought process is high ROI? You know, what would you say to them right now? Like,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So I definitely see the value in just being very well oriented in one topic, or
Mhm.
one dimension, like being very good at that.
Yeah.
And I don't condemn that. I don't like look down on something like that. I just think that um like, you want to be a little bit of a renaissance man, like
Mhm.
just kind of gather thoughts and ideas from all areas of life, because your thoughts get many more layers. They
Yeah.
get more colorful. You paint a more beautiful picture around your life. And for example, let's say like Albert Einstein. He,
Mhm.
he was he loved music, and his greatest insights actually came from playing the violin. That's
Yeah.
something that a lot of people might not know, but
Yeah.
it's really surprising, because you think about a scientist, it's just sitting and reading science books. But those the most successful people, the most interesting people,
Yes.
they gather from any resource that's
Yeah.
available for them.
Yeah.
They're curious about life. They have a hunger for life, and that's something that I admire. And I think that hunger lives in everyone, and it's
Mhm.
just something that you can spark, and just follow your curiosity, and
Mhm.
just go into a bookstore and pick the opposite of what you would pick. Just
Mhm.
do it. I do it sometimes. I go to a bookstore, I pick up a book, and I say, no way I would pick this book. Let's get it. Why not?
Yeah.
And you'll learn something new.
Yeah. I like that. That's I haven't done that in a while because I was missing out on my reading time, so I got back to it. So I only chose what I wanted. But when
Mm.
I was a voracious reader, I did that actually as well. And that's how you then grow new facets. Actually, that's a nice tip. If a person is listening, write that one down. That was a good one. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do that one. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I just love I also think that the more you open up to like more religions and more get out of your shell, and like more cultures. Also, I think traveling, you as a traveler know that a lot,
Yeah.
that the more you travel, you open up to more things like that. So these things change your mind. It kind of also rewires your brain.
Yeah, I like that. That how it changes your brain, and maybe from like a personality point of origin, what you just said, stay hungry and
Mhm,
curious. You know,
mhm.
and there's this quote attributed to Steve Jobs. I don't know if that's
Yeah, Steve
he
Jobs.
says like
Mhm,
stay foolish and stay hungry. You know, and
definitely.
I agree with that curiosity thing, because if you think about it, the people who learn the fastest, right? Legend goes that kids can learn languages super fast, but as you get older, it becomes more difficult. It is because children are curious to the T. Like they learn languages so fast because they are taking in this knowledge like a sponge, and they care about it. For us, it's a chore, and we've stripped away the playfulness of it. It's no longer play, it's a chore. And
Yeah.
this is a little bit, maybe I really like this angle then, to force maybe a little bit on the positive hue, which you mentioned, like being curious and hungry, because I called it being not bored. But this is maybe better for some people, that they can understand, be a little bit like a child in a candy store or bookstore, you know, and just have some fun. And from that fun, maybe down the road, you know, like Viktor Frankl said about happiness, success, it can come, but don't focus on it in the beginning too much, but just go down this long journey and road, and maybe you'll stumble upon it.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that you kind of like have a backpack, maybe like it's kind of an image, but a metaphor for, you have like the backpack that you fill up with knowledge, with insights about things, with quotes maybe, and maybe like it's not yet very coherent and like makes sense right now. And it's also kind of like Steve Jobs said that you connect the dots backward. So you gather things in that backpack, but the more you have there, the more abundance of ideas you have, the more chances that later down the road you'll be able to kind of extract something unique of your own, and just make something that's yours, and like go out of the theory and the books, and just become your own version of all that you read and all that you've learned and all that you experienced.
That's a good one. I actually said that that things are manifesting for me, because I read so much when I was a kid, basically, that these days the friends and the people I meet are like the book characters that I read. They always have something of it. And a person actually called me up upon it. He said, you always have these cool references with either a movie or a book that I make with them. And I didn't know I was doing it, but it was basically, well, fan service for myself. You know, as a kid, you're reading this book and you want to meet this person. Oh, this is nice, you know, and this and that. But then I meet this person. I think, hey, you're just like this book character. You know, did you know? And they're like, they're laughing about it. But that ties into Limitless, what you just said with putting it into practice, the theory, you know, and it comes down the road for them, you know.
Pretty cool, man. I really like that analogy.
Let's zoom in a little bit like on Steve Jobs, because pre-recording, we were talking about magnetic personalities. And I remember there's this concept about Steve Jobs, the biographer, shit, I forgot the guy's name. He wrote about Steve Jobs that he has this magnetic distortion field. What have you read about Steve Jobs, or just intuitively, how would you say that Steve Jobs is such why do people remember him actually? Because he didn't make the thing. There was Wozniak made the iOS, but why do people remember? What do you think that's the story there?
I think, well, I haven't like read a ton about Steve Jobs, but just intuitively, I just feel like he had this so strong vision, like that vision that was really grander than anything. And you know, when there's a person with an enormous vision that people can see so clearly, and he believes in it with all his heart and body, it just like gives them goosebumps, and people like follow that person, because you know, the world is so chaotic and unpredictable, and when there's this one guy who can show you the way, and he just knows where to go, and he's just a man, then you're gonna follow him, because he's the man who knows what to do, and like the Messiah. And people go after that kind of people.
That's powerful, man, Limitless, because the reason why I was laughing, like this flashback came in my head. I was on a date with this girl from Switzerland in Amsterdam. And she was actually hungry, not me. But, well, sometimes she liked to be led, you know. In this case, I just took the lead. But I, for a person, don't like to stand in the middle of a street a little bit thinking, where are we going to eat, kind of. And I was walking so fast. It's because of my, I would say, I think you gotten to know me in this. I'm in a like a train roller coaster ride kind of mindset. It's hard to describe. That's maybe for another time, but
Yeah.
I have this thing behind me now, and I just walk. It's manifested in a physical tempo that's walking fast as fuck. So I'm just walking, and from the corner of my eye, I see something that she maybe like. I say that one, and she doesn't respond. She doesn't respond, and then I see something that I think, well, we're just gonna go here, whether she wants or not. And it was just a ramen store, but I see it from my peripheral, and I just like make a sharp right, and I just walk in, and then I say, hey, what's up to the clerk behind the counter, and I just sit down, and she looks at me like in awe. I just, wow, that was so fast. And then it was actually so fast that I had to piece it together what I did. I was neither drunk or I was not on something, but well, I was on a microcosm like vision, what we were talking about. So I can relate with that I'm not always like that, I have my off days, but I know people who have a very strong vision and mission, this adage, maybe a cliche for some people, but if they have it, they are very powerful people. And if they, secondly, if we're going to write like a vocal thread right now, if secondly, they have a hardcore belief in it, that's, you just want to listen to everything they say. They are,
Yeah, exactly. That's something that's just magnetic and just very, very attractive. And I think it's something that you can't fake. You can't fake that. It's a very strong feeling. Do you feel like I feel like you are very I feel like you have a lot of these elements in your personality. I feel like that. Do you feel like that's something that you've had for your entire life, or it's something that you?
Yeah, definitely not my entire life. I think I'm one of those like younger guys that comes on the timeline, not per se looking for a daddy, but we're all looking for validation somewhere deep down if we haven't harnessed our ego. But I always wanted certain things. So the memes that they talk about, Achilles, that's why they won't remember your name. I don't know if you know that meme.
I know that meme.
Yeah. I've watched I don't know what year that movie is, or The Gladiator is in the year 2000, actually, if we're gonna go that route. I was then basically 8 years old, if we're gonna think about it, something like that. I watched that movie and he says shit like, what we do in life echoes in eternity, or my favorite movie was Saving Private Ryan, or that television show Band of Brothers. And then, actually, when you mentioned about how certain commanders are so cool, in Band of Brothers, there's Lieutenant Winters, who by accident gets upgraded in World War II, and he doesn't even want it, but people just listen to this guy, and he is a real dude, and they've interviewed him and there are books about him. And I think from there's this thing like from your birth till your 7th year. Well, I was very malleable, and most people are very malleable because your brain waves are mostly in the theta brainwave state. People can look this shit up, and in there you can be indoctrinated with shit. And well, I think I was indoctrinated to be a martyr, a hero, a superhero. I watched a lot of Power Ranger shit, and afterwards, when I was more an adolescent, I watched anime and stuff like that. Those guys always want to be the hero.
That's interesting.
Yeah, Naruto, Bleach, One Piece. Yeah,
I love that show.
Yeah, exactly. And to give the long answer short, not to toot my own horn, but it's just these archetypical images in my head that I just crave to express still to this day. And if I'm failing, I know I'm failing. That it's just clear to me. Doesn't mean that I don't feel. Just a caveat out there. If somebody wants to pull my card, but
Yeah. I feel you. I feel that definitely reflects in how you move, how you speak, how you kind of like share your ideas. And I think that's why there's like this not like to start overpraise or something, but that's the kind of magnetic quality that we talked a lot about. So I love it.
Oh, actually, a tip I can actually give to people. So I think if I were to, write a thread or step-by-step actionable stuff for these people, is what we've talked about actually very in a linear chronological way by accident, is to first go down a route of like one facet or certain facets, hone your craft, and
Yeah.
then by accident you become perhaps multifaceted, down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then as an afterthought or through leakage, you gain some magnetism, right? Coupled with vision and belief that I heard. I really like this stuff. But actually, I'm not saying I'm further than that, but I let a little bit go of too much ego, what you just said, not to overpraise. And I think that's the last step of magnetism, that I think Nutty Freak uses the word irreverence. I think I have an irreverence to my own accomplishments, that I just drop them like, for a person it's maybe bombs, but for me it's not impressive anymore. And to the layman it might seem that I'm uber arrogant then, but I actually make it seem like it's almost no effort, just to showcase through leading by example that they either can accomplish this themselves, or there's somebody out there even better than me, that it actually doesn't mean that much. A good example, you really liked my blog piece about running the marathon, right? That
Oh, I love that one.
yeah,
I love
so
it.
I was, very irreverent. I don't like that so much, because David Goggins is way better than me, because the first time he did it, he ran a 100-mile run, and I'm quite egoic in that sense. Then, not to say that my accomplishment doesn't mean absolutely nothing on a full spectrum, you know what I mean? But I detach my ego from the triumph. I just acknowledge and accept it. But through this irreverence or this lack of care too much about it, I then by accident draw people in that they think, oh well, Fury doesn't even, it's just one of his things.
Yeah,
And that's how I
exactly.
want to live. That is actually only one of my things. So if somebody brings it up, I'll say, yeah, well, I didn't go for an Ironman because my swimming sucks.
Yeah.
Not to that self-deprecating humor. I don't do that, because of internal dialogue and stuff like that. But I'm saying there's more to shoot for here, guys. Let's all like
Exactly.
Atlas say, let's all win for loftier things. Yeah.
Yeah. I resonate with that. I mean, it's like you're not trying to inflate your achievements, like
Yeah.
lay your whole self-esteem on them. Just they're part of you. It's cool. It's just not the main show.
Yeah.
Your personality, your ideas, your way of thinking is the thing. The achievements is just there to kind of like a bar on the on the belt. So I totally get what you want to say here. And
That's cool.
I think that if I would give like a tip for someone to awaken that essence of the leadership of their own the way they can lead a person to something bigger is, I'm not saying I maybe put themselves in a situation of danger. I'm not meaning like a life-threatening situation, but maybe if you are in a little bit of an extreme situation, instead of freaking out, try to light the switch that shuts down the self-talk and just act. So you're just acting right now. You're not thinking. You're super aware of what's happening. You're super focused. You're super sharp. It's very hard to describe it. It's very hard to just force yourself to a situation like this. I've been to a few situations like this from my experience in the military, that you just shut down like a switch and turn on another one, and that feeling will help you understand how to lead others without fear, without holding yourself back. So that's just a tip I can give, maybe, or jump from a plane if you have a chance. It's also a great experience to awaken that feeling.
It's good. I see another warning. Let's end this on a high note with that last golden tip you've given me. Is there anything you want to mention, ask, or this is also usually the time somebody can self-promote and or plug, but I had personally, I had a great conversation, and I always like from a meta point of view when the creator comes and he loves flow, and then the conversation goes into flow. It's always very telling if the conversation would not go into flow. Why are these guys that are talking about flow? They can't even do it themselves, you know?
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
I love getting into these sorts of conversations where things just roll and there's a mutual feeling where the other person feels the other, and it's really one of the biggest joys of life, I think. And I really enjoyed this conversation, so thanks a lot for having me. And regarding my my content, and I'd love if you go check out my Twitter page, see if you like the stuff I talk about. If anything resonates, then feel free to follow me, and also have a chat. My DMs are open, so would love to get to know anyone who feels this resonated. And it was a blast, man. Thanks so much for having me today.
Yeah. I feel definitely we should do like a part 2 or something down the road.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe a spaces would be great. So.
Yeah, we can do more like consistent space.
Sure.
I haphazardly jumped in because who was I talking to? Oh, I was doing that thing with ego. I think. Yeah, you know, but yeah, definitely we have a good flow, and I think people love, you know, people talk about like authenticity and stuff like that. I think we have a good energy. So, like I said, it's, I don't know if it's rare in real life, but people are a little bit, they need soulfulness, and we can cater that towards them. You know?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So let's do it. Let's do it sometime again.
Yeah. Well, thanks again.
HOOA.